us here from EchoStor. We have Daniel Clydesdale-Carter. He's a newly appointed field CTO. As you can see, 15 plus years working in enterprise IT, creating advanced solutions for customers and helping solve business problems. And then we have Chuck Salvo from OVATIO. He's their CDIO, 20 plus years helping mid-market and enterprise businesses better leverage data and improve business processes. So without that, I'll pass it over. Chuck.
Thanks, Nate. And thank you all for attending. Looking forward to giving you a good demonstration of what the Power Platform can do for you. So before we get started, just to talk a little bit about who OVATIO is. We are an enterprise IT staffing and cloud consulting company. We've been in business for 20 plus years. We've staffed 1,500 positions. And we are really focused from a Microsoft side around the cloud, Microsoft's 3 clouds. So that's the Office 365 cloud, Azure, and Dynamics. And we're one of the only partners to offer our Microsoft Optimization as a Service, which is a unique service offering around how do you get the most out of your Microsoft engagement in the cloud. So what do we do as an organization? Again, staffing is kind of a big piece for us. And the other part of our organization is really our cloud consulting. So really, when you look at our ecosystems of areas that we can help you with, whether it's systems integration, communication, collaboration, data intelligence, security, application development, really we're built to help you scale, solve, and succeed using this ecosystem services that are coming out of the Microsoft cloud.
Hey Chuck, this is Daniel. I just wanted to segue a little bit here. Hello everyone, welcome and thank you for attending. I'll keep it brief because as mentioned earlier, Chuck's got a great presentation and live demos to go through today. I just wanted to mention that at EchoStor, many of our customers are trying to make better use of the cloud and SaaS-based applications, Microsoft 365, Azure, and as this slide shows, there are many technologies out there in the ecosystem. So as before, with your data in your DCs, using that data to better run your business is always the goal. But what do you do when the data is no longer hosted in your data center, or maybe it's split between a SaaS provider or a PaaS platform? So bringing the power of your data to your end users has always been a challenge. However, with this trend in the industry towards self-service IT, automation, organizations are really trying to think about how they can improve their business processes and how can they do that quickly and effectively without having to do much development in a more traditional way. So because of that, we've partnered with OVATIO here to help our customers make better use of their data as they kind of move towards these Microsoft 365 and Azure services. So over to you, Chuck. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Daniel. Yeah, so when you look at this is the base, right? The business application solution ecosystem. And really, it's just a quick visualization of Microsoft's 3 clouds. So again, we've got the Dynamics cloud at the top with all its different pieces, customer service, sales, finance and operation, marketing. And the marketing offering, just to speak about it real quick, is a really killer solution for those of you looking for some help in the marketing arena. The Office 365 cloud, your traditional, Outlook, Excel, Word, Teams, SharePoint, OneDrive. Then in the middle, we have the Power Platform. And there's a good reason why it's in the middle, because really it is a connector for all these different things. Also gives you the ability to leverage what was formerly known as a common data service, which is now Microsoft's Dataverse. And we'll go into that later on in the demo. And then lastly, the Azure services. So traditionally, people look at Azure and say it's infrastructure as a service. It's another cloud, right? What's the difference between that and my on-prem cloud? The reality is Azure's power is in its services. Infrastructure as a service, many people can do that. There's many clouds that offer that. What's different about Azure is all these connected services, whether it's their AI, their vision, their labs, their cognitive, their bot framework, their web functions, their Cosmos DB, their Azure Data Lake, all these other great, amazing services really help take these things here to the next level. So what is the Power Platform, right? We've probably, hopefully you've heard about it. You might have heard of different components of it, but let's go over what it really is. So going left to right, we're going to start with Power BI. Power BI is the industry-leading data visualization tool from Microsoft. outstanding tool, can connect to hundreds of data sources. And that notion right there of connecting to multiple data sources is going to be a theme that you're going to see throughout this entire Power App family. Next up, we have, it's Power Platform family. So next up, we have Power Apps. Power Apps is our application development tool. Quickly and easily develop applications using what's called low-code, no-code technology. Next up, we have Power Automate. Power Automate is really it's our workflow engine. It's our connection. It's basically our business process automation piece. So when you take the three of these together, Power Apps, Power Automate, and Power BI, you're really developing a full-blown solution. Then you take into account Power Virtual Agents, which is kind of an outlier to this. Pricing model is different. Capabilities are really different. But what it turns into is Power Virtual Agent is a way to create chatbots, and really creates another interface into these data sets, right? So we'll talk about later on about how to take a Power Virtual Agent and use that with Power Automate to help augment and complete functionality. So what can these tools do for you? Like we talked about earlier, business process automation, full-blown applications, data visualizations, all in one suite of tools. It's easy, right? We hit the easy button and we're off and running. Not so much, but pretty close. So let's start with Power Apps right here and talk about what Power Apps can do for you. Number one, like we talked about, no-code solution for creating applications. So Microsoft theme is this low-code, no-code type thing. The idea here is to empower citizen developers to create functionality, right? In the past, we'd have to sit there and say, all right, we need an application built. What are we going to do? We're going to go to IT. We're going to build up requirements. We're going to send it over to the development team. They're going to start writing code. They're going to deploy it. Weeks, months go by before you get anything. The idea behind Power Apps is to go out there and say, okay, I've got a data source. I know what I want to do with that data source. I want to send data into the data source. I want to pull data out of it. Basically, I want to build applications. So again, back to that citizen developer, you want to be able to enable your end users. And again, not every end user out there, your power users, people that understand the data model, that understand the business needs, can go out there and build this without having to know C#, ASP.NET, or any of these other technologies. A couple of great things here. Power Apps allows us to easily deploy to web, mobile, and Teams. So built in, we have a deployment framework. We don't have to say, all right, we need to build a mobile app. If I build an app inside of Power Apps, it'll render, whether it's iOS, whether it's Android, whether it's a web browser, and any web browser, right? As well as now that we have so much integration with Teams, it's just a great solution for getting that application out there. It supports both Model and Canvas, and we'll go over what the differences are between those two. There's also a notion of Power Apps portals. I'm not going to cover that too much just because it in and itself is its own, topic. And then lastly, again, connecting to hundreds of data sources. So our goal here is to build an application based on data. So let's jump into the demo. So right here, this is Power Apps. This is make.powerapps, right? So this is our studio. If I click on the home page, right, build apps, build business apps fast, right? And you'll see here, make your own. Canvas from blank, model driven from blank, or portal from blank, right? And start with data. So you can pick this and say, okay, I want to start with data. So as I go down to the left-hand side, next thing I have is apps, right? So these are my existing apps that I've already built. I can go create a new app, and again, kind of the same thing, Canvas, model driven portal. I'm going to talk about this right here, data, because this is going to help you understand the difference between Canvas and model. So data is really Microsoft's Dataverse. Again, if you're familiar with this Power Platform, you probably heard the Common Data Service, renamed Microsoft Dataverse. And what's great about this is it's very simple to use. So the idea behind this is it's all entity driven. So if you think about entities in your organization, we have things like accounts, we have things like addresses, attachments, contacts, right? And if you're familiar with Dynamic CRM, this is very similar to the Dynamic CRM model. In fact, Dynamic CRM, all of its UI now is done in Power Apps, right? So what's great about this is I can go in here, and if I want, I can create a new table, or I can go into my account here, and I can add columns, right? So what's nice about this is I haven't cared about my storage at all. I haven't cared about a SQL server. I haven't worried about, spinning up SQL service tables, doing any DBA stuff. I'm basically doing, click and drag. So if I go in here and say add column, I can go in here and easily add a column, demo, right, and a data type. All these different data types. And the most important one right here is probably lookup, because the lookup now allows me basically to go into a related table. Right? So you can create parent-child relationships very easy, and even continue those relationships going deeper and deeper. So again, no SQL, right? I haven't written a SQL statement. I haven't written any C# or anything like that. It's all very easy to use. All right.
Chuck, before you get too far, we had a question come in a couple minutes ago asking, can Power Apps run on premise?
So Power Apps is a cloud-only solution at this point. It can connect to on-premise data. So if you have SQL on-premise or Oracle on-premise or some of the other ones, there is an on-premise data gateway that can be installed to surface that data up into Power Apps. But in and itself, Power Apps is a cloud-only solution.
All right, thanks, Chuck.
No problem. All right, so that's Microsoft Dataverse. So let's get back to our apps because, well, I'm sorry, let me show you one more thing. So we talked about that canvas versus model. So this right here, if I go into forms right here, I click on account. This right here is a model-driven app, right? And so what's happening here is, once it renders, right? So very similar screen to maybe something you've seen in Salesforce or again, Dynamics CRM. But the idea here is it's very easy for me to go in and add fields, right? Here's website. I can hide the label. I can do certain things to it. If I want to add additional fields, I can bring in all my columns for my table. And if I wanted to go in here and say, for instance, put in category, I can just drag category in, right? Boom. I can save it. And then publish this. So what happens now is that any of my model-driven apps that use the account entity, when they bring up this form, this will render for them. So let's go back to our apps over here. While that's waiting, let's go back to our apps over here. And we're going to bring up two different apps, right? So we've got inventory, canvas style, and inventory. This is a model-driven app. I mean, canvas style app. I'm sorry. Wait. We want to bring up the canvas style first. I'm sorry. So that's it rendering. But let's actually go into the studio itself. So if I click on edit right here, what this is going to do is this is going to bring me into the studio to actually build the application. So it's going right now, it's loading the definition, it's bringing in data, it's doing all its things to get stuff ready. So what we see here is we have different screens. Right? So here you have a lot more control on a canvas style app. I can go in here and I can add all sorts of different things, right? Your traditional labels and forms and icons, but I can get even more exotic inputs, right? I can do pen input. I can go in here and display things like HTML. I can bring in media, right? So I can bring in a camera. I can do a barcode scanner, right? I can do maps. I can even bring in AI, right? So right here, business card reader. I can go in here and quickly build an app that'll scan a business card, extract the data using Microsoft's AI, and populate a form. So again, a lot of control, a lot more ability to do unique things versus what we'll bring up is the canvas style app. I mean, the model style app. So if I go in here and I'm just gonna hit play just so you can see this, what happens now? This is a model-driven app. So what happens here is it basically has two things. It's got views and forms. So right here is my list of views. All right, so here's my active accounts. And then if I click on mine, basically there's a filter in there. And then if I click on an account right here, I get information, right? So you're seeing two totally unique user interfaces. Again, with their own different abilities to produce an application. What's great about this is I could build an app both model-driven and canvas-driven off of the Microsoft Dataverse or other data solutions. So that's a quick demonstration of Power Apps. Any questions so far on Power Apps?
Yeah, Chuck, we actually did have one come in. Somebody asked, how can these apps be protected from deletion?
So there's security built into it, so you can control who has access to it. And then you can also take these apps and integrate them into the Azure DevOps. So you have source control over your Power Apps. So there's a couple ways there.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. All right. Next up, Power Automate. So again, as we're going down our line here, Power Automate is a low-code, no-code solution for creating workflow automations, right? Hundreds of connectors. We also have an approval connector. So approvals are a very unique and powerful thing because now they just actually, I think it was yesterday, just rolled out approvals for Teams. So what's great about that is you can build approval workflows and leverage the approval process right inside of Teams. The other thing here is it integrates into Power Apps. So what I mean by that is, let's go in here back to our model-driven app, canvas-driven app. So if I click on here and I've got this screen here where I want to create an order and I want to expedite the order, I can go in here and say action, Power Automate. So what this is going to do is I can go and create a new flow that'll take take parameters and pass it in. So I'll go in here and say create a new flow. Right. So what's happening here is now I'm inside of Power Automate, right? So I'm going to step back over here real quick and talk a little bit more about Power Automate, and we'll come back to that Power Apps integration. So again, when you look at Power Automate workflow, right? So what's cool about it is if you look at connectors here, you get an idea of all the different things that this can connect to, right? So simple things, right? It's Office 365 users, SharePoint, OneDrive, Outlook, Twitter, yay. But as you go down, you scroll through, you see more and more. And it's not just Microsoft, right? Obviously, Microsoft's kind of, controlling the real estate up top like a grocery shelf. But as you scroll deeper and deeper, we've got integration for Instagram, for Dropbox, for Google Drive, for Slack, right? For Box. Whatever it is, there's potentially a connector out there. And also, if you had a custom application and wanted to, you can create your own custom app connector to leverage Power Automate. In fact, on our own organization, we use our own custom time entry system, and we've created a connector into it so that when we go and create an order inside of our dynamic CRM, we actually go and create a project into our time entry system using that flow. So let's talk about how to create a flow. We click on create.
Chuck, before you keep going, it sounds like maybe you've got something covering the microphone a little bit. If you can just finagle a little. You're coming in a little muffled there for a sec.
Sorry about that. How's this any better? Oh, I'm hoping it's better. If I have my big fat hand on the microphone. All right, so over here, so we'll just look at a automated cloud flow. So what happens here is you have this notion of triggers, right? So perfect one is when a new response is submitted to Microsoft Forms. I hit create. And what this is going to do is it's basically getting me into the author environment. I can go in here, I'll pick a form. Let's see, Microsoft Teams voice questionnaire. So what happens now is I can go in here and then say, all right, when this happens, what do I want to do with this, right? Do I want to send something in Outlook, right? I can send an email, right? Or I can go into Dynamics, right? Dynamics Nav. Do I want to create an item, get an item? You'll see there's this common theme. It's very similar in line with HTTP traffic, right? So an HTTP post and HTTP get. And that's what you're really seeing with these connectors, is it's all REST-based APIs. So again, you can go in there and build any type of flow that you want. So I'll give you an example of one that we're using right now. So we'll say, okay, over here, I'm gonna go with my shared flows. And right here, we actually use this to bring people on. Right? And you'll see over here, there's connectors. I've got it connected to Approval, Azure AD, Outlook. Right? So if I go in here and edit this flow, you actually see what's happening here, right? So we trigger this through Power Apps. So we go in here and we store our new hires in this location. It's a human resources site. It's very limited to who has access. And we get who the new hire is. We start an approval. And if the individual is approved, then we start going into things basically saying, send an approval email. We get the item again. We create a user. We get the user. We assign the manage. We assign them to licenses to them. We send them a welcome email. Then again, depending on what their role is, we might assign them to certain groups. So again, simple onboarding workflow, and we're accomplishing it using Power Automate. And again, over here, when you look at, from a development environment, it's very similar to the make.power apps, right? So if I go over here, what do we have? Data, flows, chatbots. When I come over here to my flow over here, I have data, right? Connections, gateways, right? AI builder. It's a little bit different, but again, Microsoft's trying to standardize on these different user interfaces to help the user be able to use these different tools and efficiently build solutions around them. Right. Any questions about Power Automate?
Yeah, Chuck, we did have one come in. How can we keep track of all the automations created, and what business processes are they affecting? In other words, how can we manage governance of the created automations?
So governance really starts with who has access, right? Who has access to author these things. And then after that, you really want to get into the admin center, which here is the Power Platform administration side, right? So admin.powerplatform. Over here, you have different environments. So with us, we get a trial one, we've got our sandbox, we've got our CRM, and then our main organization one. So if I click on here, I can see things like, all right, what are my settings, right? I can also go into my flow admin over here. So there's the two spots you want to look at. Governance is a big one because you're depending on the developers to really do some management in regards to naming conventions and whatnot. But again, I would say that's probably a deeper conversation than what I could probably show you just from the tools out of the box. All right, so moving on. Power Virtual Agents. This right here is a no-code solution for chatbot creation. Traditionally, chatbot development is done in C# or .NET, or even Node.js. And basically, it's a little bit more longer and complicated. So really what you want to do with Power Virtual Agents is this allows you to create a chatbot, and it's drag and drop, right? Also, it integrates with Power Automate for third-party connections. So the idea behind it is your chatbot can call Power Automate to do things like do an order lookup, do a replacement order, check a balance, right? Create a new form or things like that. And the great thing here is that it supports multiple channels. So when we talk about channels are things like a website or a team, right? So you can bring a chatbot into a team, also Facebook, right? Or even Google. So anywhere where there's a chat standard, you can go out there and deploy your Power Virtual Agent and create this bot that'll interact with customers. So let's take a look at that. Oops. All right, so Power Virtual Agent starts with what's called topics. All right, so I've got a bot right now. It's called the Human Resources bot. This is just a demonstration bot that I use to play around. Over here, these topics basically allow you to create visual workflows. So let's talk about this one right here. We have got our Office 365 security. And what's happening is we have trigger phrases. So these trigger phrases basically take the bot down a path. So if I go in here now to the author and canvas, what happens is if someone types in ATP, right? And this is my test bot right here, so I can keep track. So if I say ATP over here, right? So now we're seeing what's happening, right? We sent a message. Thanks for reaching out to us on security. How many users do you have? And we're actually asking a question and storing that result. And so if I go in there now and I say 300, turn, we're going to continue to traverse. Right, so from a development perspective now, if I want to go in and make changes, it's very simple. I can go in here, I can make changes to the space in there. I can go in and ask something else, right? I can ask a question. I can add a condition. I can show a message. And the questions are great because if I say ask a question here, and then I can identify, well, what are we getting back? The simplest one is multiple choice, but I can take their entire response. I can ask them things that are like Boolean, yes or no, city, continents. So these are some pre-built entities that allow you to extract information from the response, right? So we'll just keep it simple. We'll say multiple choice options. I'll go in here and say favorite team, Patriots. I know I'm biased, I'm sorry. We'll go in here and we'll say Celtics. Bruins. And yes, we'll even throw in the Red Sox, as bad as they are playing these days. So what's happening now is as I add in each option, what happened now is it creates this condition for us. So if they say Celtics, now I can go in here and say great choice. Right? And then again, I can test this relatively easy. So test my bot. Reset over here. Go down the path again. Turn on users. And now it's Office 365. Oh, I'm sorry. No, I didn't save that. All right. So back to this over here. Let's go back and. All right, so let's remove this and we'll just start from scratch in this one. Okay, and get rid of this. And again, everything I'm doing here, what's great is I'm not doing any sort of coding, right? I'm just going in here and adding, dragging, dropping. So if they pick the Celtics, we'll tell them great choice, but now we're going to do something called call to action. When we call an action now, what's going to happen is we can create a flow, right? So if I say create a flow, now I'm brought into Power Automate. And what this is doing for me is it's allowing me to basically grab data from Power Virtual Agent and then do whatever I want, right? So again, if I go into my step here and I say add an action, I can do any sort of connection, right? So I don't think I have, yeah, so Oracle. If I want to go execute a stored procedure inside of Oracle, and get a customer's account balance, I could do that and then return that back to the bot. So again, everything that I've shown you up until this point, I haven't written any code. I haven't worried about a database. I haven't worried about data storage. I've just been building solutions. Right? And that's really the inherent power of the Power Platform right there. So with that, let me pause real quick. Any questions on Power Virtual Agents? All right, next up. One of my favorites, Power BI. Power BI has been around for a while. It is probably the product that I see the most updates from Microsoft. Literally every 2 weeks, there's new updates on Power BI. Again, leverage hundreds of data sources. There's a Power BI portal for delivery as well as mobile. Right. So what we're going to show you is we're going to show you the portal. I'm going to show you the development environment to create these Power BI reports. They are the Gartner Magic Quadrant data visualization leader, right? Price, performance, everything else. Microsoft truly has an outstanding solution. We see a lot of customers that are running Tableau. Tableau is great solution, very expensive. Microsoft, far cheaper. And has a huge amount of integration points, as well as the ability to create custom visualizations, easy to deploy, just really a great solution. Also, it includes data flows. So data flows are somewhat new technology. I want to say about a year old. And the idea behind the data flows is it's really taking Power BI and moving it into more of an ETL tool. Right? And we'll talk about this and how you can bring data into Power BI. But what this will allow you to do is it'll allow you to increment incremental refreshes from your data source. Traditionally, what would happen is you would go and say, all right, we're going to run SSIS SQL integration services, and we're going to do an incremental upload from our orders and order item table, and we're going to bring that into a database for data warehousing. Well, what's great about that is Power BI can do that for you with data flows. So now you don't have to worry about how am I refreshing my data warehouse, which then feeds into my Power BI. You're refreshing your Power BI data sets. Next up, and the last thing I'll talk about here is it can integrate with Power Apps, right? So I can take and embed Power BI into a Power App, or I can take Power BI and embed a Power App into it. So again, you're seeing more and more of these ability for these tools to work together. All right, so back to demo time. So over here, what do we have? This is Power BI Portal, right? So again, web-based, very nice and easy. COVID-19, right? You can't get away from it, so why not just incorporate in a demo? Just to show you some of the visualization capabilities. So this is here, we built this. This is off the Johns Hopkins data set. We're actually using Azure Databricks. We're extracting the data. We're doing some manipulations to it. And it's great because if I go in here and I click on Florida here, what you're going to see is all of my charts and graphs respond to it, right? My cases by county over here, the big map changes, right? My 7-day moving average, my cases by day, total cases, so on and so forth. Same thing over here, right? So if I click on Texas, if I click on Georgia, right? And again, if I deselect it, there we go. It shows me the entire country. Again, over here, if I click on this single data point, now I see the data for that day. Right, so now I see cases by state for that day, cases by state per million, right? So again, the idea here is it allows users to create actionable insights. I'm not going to get into the ramifications of the actionable insights of a COVID-19 report, but if you think about it from a standpoint of the sales by region, the sales by product, so on and so forth, the ability for your users to drill through and understand what the data is key. Right? The last thing we want to do is actually have users go out there every day and say, all right, ran this report that you built for me. I need the data this way. And they go back to IT, right? And then it goes through that cycle. A couple more days, they go in, they build a SQL report or the Crystal report. We want to get away from that. We want to enable and empower users, right? Power BI is that tool. So let's go and take a look at how do we actually build something. All right, so over here, got my desktop. All right, so let's go in here and get some data. And we'll bring in some text. And COVID-19 vaccinations. Why not, right? Let's keep the theme. So we've got our vaccination data. This is fresh off the CDC this morning. We're basically going in, we're saying, go grab that CSV file. So what it's doing is it grows, it grabs it, right? Has all the headers, right? Understands the delimiter. I'm gonna say load. Again, that was pretty straightforward, right? Real easy. Didn't need to know any SQL, nothing. So now I've got my fields. So again, back to the data piece. If I sit here and say get data and I say more, we'll just see everything, right? Talk about all those different connectors, all those different ways to bring data in. Let's see here, if we talk about database, all the big ones are covered, right? SQL, Access, Oracle, IBM, MySQL, Postgres, Sybase, Amazon Redshift. Some of these I don't even know. Jethro, no idea. Tygeligence, no idea. MariaDB, I've heard of that. Right? If I talk about Azure SQL databases, Azure Synapse Analytics, table storage, blob storage, right? Azure Databricks, online services, which is a huge area here, right? So Dynamics, SharePoint, Business Central, right? Salesforce, Google Analytics, QuickBooks Online, which is a huge one for us. Even Microsoft Call Quality, right? So if you're dealing with Microsoft and using Teams, there's the ability to get into that call quality data from Teams using Power BI. So back to our COVID-19 vaccinations. We're going to go over here and we're going to build some visuals. And so let's start with some simple things. Total administered, right? Okay, let's put that as a number, right? Because I just want to see how many have we actually administered. Wow, we've administered 11 million vaccines. How many have we distributed? Again, let's put that as a number. Right? Just build this out pretty easy. That's pretty good, right? We've got 11 million out there, 31 million distributed. But where? Who's got it? Right? Oh, let's bring a map up. Right? So this is great. We can actually, here we go. It's a visualization. And we're going to go with the total administered as our size of our little blob there. Right? So if I zoom in, I can kind of see what's going on here. Which state is pushing the most vaccines out? Right? Pretty cool. Right, nice and easy. So let's go now and let's add some more visualizations. Let's go total amount administered, distributed, right? Well, let's break that up by state. All right. So who's doing the best? All right. So here we are. Total administered, total distributed. So you're seeing how quickly I just took a CSV file. I've been able to infer some intelligence. I've been able to create visualizations. I've been able to create graphs and charts. I can go in here and I've got a lot of control with our ability to do things like, all right, how do I want to format this? Let's put a border on this and kind of class it up a little bit. Another border over here, another border over here. Lastly, another border over here. What if I want to slice things up? Now, this is great, but what if I want to slice it and look at these states? So we'll add the state again, and we'll go in here and here's my filter. So when we create a filter, we say, okay, let's look at Arizona. Right. So again, slicing and dicing capability. And if I didn't have that slicer over here, if I just clicked on this chart, and again, everything's interacting. Everything's connected, everything's wiring. So the goal behind it is that the users can go in here and easily drill through. And if I really like this and thought this was awesome, I can go in here now and I can publish it, right? So we'll say yes, and we'll save it. It's gonna ask me, where do I want to publish it to? It's the name. What this is going to do is it's going to connect up to our Power BI portal, right? Publish a Power BI. So I can pick a workspace and I can basically go out there and publish this and make it easy for users to consume. Again, just like you saw over here, Power BI portal. So that's it. That's Power BI. So your broken business issues solved by the Power Platform. Right, big smiley face over there because, again, these tools here can solve problems. They can solve them quickly. They can solve them easy. You've removed a lot of the dependencies that you had in the past. You know, dependencies on complex IT solutions, high-skilled people, data architects, so on and so forth. You can get tools in the user's hands to empower them to make changes. So what can we fix, right? Number one, manual process. To me, how many organizations have so many manual processes that they do? This is a perfect place for it, right? Using Power App, Power Automate, right? Lengthy and expensive development cycles. Again, low code, no code. I don't need to hire a development team. I'm able to do what I want. Now, the caveat to this is, you know, it's the 95%, 98%. You can get 95% of the way there, but take it to that next level. You still might need to integrate things. But again, if you think back to the notion of using connectors and connecting into these systems, you can have a development team create an API that does something for you, and then just integrate that endpoint into your application. Email hell. Oh, I hate email. It's probably one of the greatest communication tools of the last 30 years, and it just causes, you know, so much problems because email turns into your transactional business process. I'm going to send an email to this person. It's going to forward to this person. It's going to send it to this person, right? So get rid of that. Build processes. Use these tools. Disparate systems not talking. This is a huge, huge issue for so many customers of ours. They run into issues where, all right, I'm manually entering data into this. Or I do a batch process, or I do all these different things. If these systems don't talk, they're not synchronized. This is the way to solve these problems, right? Most modern systems these days have an API. If they don't, they've got a database. They've got some way to get data in and out of it. using these technologies can help create application networks, right? And an application network basically means that these applications are talking to one another. They're communicating with one another. And finally, multiple third-party solutions. You may have some legacy applications that are timed for, a rewrite. They're old. You might have technology debt. You might have all these other third-party apps. Consolidate those. Use these solutions to replace those, to enhance those, and help reduce your costs. All right. Power Platform is awesome. But before we do that, do you have any questions?
Yeah, Chuck, I was going to just stop you before you got into that. We did have a question, and that was how can we ensure that the data used in the Power Platforms is kept safe and protected?
Absolutely. So the big thing with that is, depending on your system, if you're using Microsoft Dataverse, it is backing that up every hour. And if you go into the admin center over here, too many things. Okay. So let's go back to our environments. Right, we can go into our CRM because we got some data in there. Right. If I click on backups over here, right, create or restore or manage. So I can go in here and I can pick a date and time. Right. Or if I want, I can just manually do a backup. Right. So if I'm going to go in there and do a huge data manipulation, maybe what I want to do is do a backup on it. And that's a common data service. So that is your backup solution. You don't have to buy a third-party solution. Basically, Microsoft has got you covered.
Awesome. Thanks, Chuck.
No problem. All right. So again, hopefully you enjoyed what the Power Platform can do, give you a good idea, but what does it cost, right? Nothing's free in this world. Let's talk about how you get this. So in here, and I apologize, I should have removed this off this column. So your Microsoft 365 E3, $32 per user per month does not include these. I apologize. Over here, in your 365 E5, it is included. If you're using the Office 365 E3 and E5, it's the same paradigm, right? E5, you get Power Apps, you get Power Automate, you get Power BI Pro. If you don't, then you have to have the standalone, right? So if you're using one of the E3s and you say, I want Power Apps, well, you're going to spend $10 per user per month for an app, for a single app. But if you want to do unlimited apps, it's $40 per user per month, which then kind of pushes you to, well, why don't I just get the E5, right? And what I would say, and I would preface this, is that the Microsoft 365 E5 for $57 per user per month is the greatest value in software you will ever buy. The problem that most organizations have is they don't know how to take advantage of all the different tools that's there. And that's where we come into play, providing this. We help you understand how to maximize this. So again, if you're looking at it individually, it's kind of expensive, right? So if you look at this one, if you want to do Power Automate, if you want to do up to 5 flows, it's $500 per month. Or per user, it's $15 per month. Power Automate is part of the Power Apps license. So if you purchase this, you get this, right? And then next up, Power BI Pro. Power BI Pro comes in a few different flavors. There's the Pro per user, it's $9.99 per month, right? It's like gasoline, they're trying to keep you under $10. The next one is a Power BI Premium, which is an unlicensed solution. So as many users you want inside the organization. The next one here is embedded. So Power BI Embedded is if you want to use Power BI inside of an application, inside the solution, you want to use it outside your organization. If you look at many of the Microsoft screens that you see these days in the reporting, it's all powered by Power BI Pro. If you're looking at some of the applications that are being developed these days, some of them are using Power BI Pro as their visualization engine, right? Why would you build a visualization engine when I can leverage Power BI Pro and embed it starting at $750 per month? So again, this is where your costs can come into play. When you start using more Power Apps and more Power Automate, the value really gets accelerated. If you're only doing it from 1 or 2 things, then you might want to look at the per user per month thing. Then lastly, Power Virtual Agents. So this is an interesting one. It's $1,000 per 2,000 sessions. Right? It's a very linear cost. Every 2,000 sessions is $1,000. This is a price point issue because you could develop your own chatbot. You could write your own C# code. You could develop it, test it, push it out, so on and so forth. But now you're looking at a CapEx cost, right? You're going to have to invest in software development You're going to have to invest in this. And again, you're going to have to use a developer and talk to the developer. Maybe you need a project manager, so on and so forth, versus empowering an individual to use Power Virtual Agent where they can go in there and drag and drop, add questions, take responses, and do what they need with the application without having to have a developer involved, right? So now it turns into an OpEx cost, right? $1,000 per 2,000 sessions. Again, if you can take it and if you have customer service reps and you can save some time, now the ROI becomes that much easier. All right. Any questions on the pricing? Oh. All right, awesome. So with us, basically, thank you for attending. And what we're basically offering right now is, hopefully what you saw on the Power Platform is something that gets you excited, something you say, hey, this will help my organization. So what we have right now is we have a complimentary exploration session. What basically we'll do is we'll explore remediating your business challenges and needs, looking at the Power Platform as a solution, right? Basically, it's 2 hours with us at no charge. And the walk away from that, what you're going to get is what would it take for licensing, what platform you should use, what it would look potentially to build something. And also we will try and work to see if Microsoft will potentially help out with some funding, depending on the business needs, depending on what's going on. So with this, if you're interested, please contact your EchoStor executive for more information. And that's a wrap. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Thank you very much for your time. We greatly appreciate it. And Nathan, I'll give it back to you.
All right. Thanks, Chuck. Thanks, Daniel. Thanks, everybody, for joining. I think that was a great session. Like I said, very demo heavy. Great to see, what's really possible in there. And to Chuck's point, reach out to your EchoStor AE. If you don't know who that is, we'll send out the email tomorrow with the recording. You can just reply back to that, and I can connect you with the right person. No problem there. Reminder here, you can see on the page, I think I said February 14th at the beginning of the call. It's February 18th for our Microsoft Teams final session. And again, look for that, check your email. We're going to be sending that $25 Visa gift card to thank you for your time for joining. And then we're also going to be sending a follow-up email with the recording so you can share it with your teams. I think that pretty much covers it. And we'll close this out. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a great weekend.
Thanks, everyone.